I did a road rambling, so let's do a road rambling. I'm on my way to go get my kiddo from college for the weekend. I'm excited to hang out with her. We're going to cook dinner tonight and all those fun things because I haven't really got to see her in 2 weeks. I got to see her yesterday, but I haven't really got to see her in 2 weeks. But we're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about in this road rambling is something that's kind of been on my mind or on the back burner of my mind for, I'm going to say, at least 2 years now. And it seems, it's funny to me how the universe always brings things back around, because you know how when something pops up and you start thinking about it again, like the universe suddenly will start bringing you a lot of things that coincide with that, or that make sure you know, okay, you're on the right path. I'm on my hair, it hurts. This is confirmation, etc. So let's talk about attachments. We're going to talk about good attachments, bad attachments, in the middle attachments, etc. Now, the reason that I want to bring this up is because I feel like every single person, when I say this, ever since I was a little kid, some people are naturally open to being a conduit for beings. Doesn't mean channeling those beings. It's being a conduit for seeing them, hearing them, etc. Now, I'm not just talking about mediumship. Mediumship is seeing, hearing, somehow communicating with human beings that have passed over. Animals, dogs, cats, etc. that have passed over. In my personal opinion, mediumship does not involve speaking to things in other realms, speaking to non-human entities. That's usually channeling. I mean, we'll just put that all under channeling, okay? Mediumship also falls under channeling. But I've talked to a whole bunch of you guys who are in the same boat, where when you were a kid, you literally could see the demonic parts of people's faces, or you could see people that had passed on, you saw shadows, you had things in your room, etc. Sound familiar? Yeah, does it? But there's a difference in seeing those things where you go. Maybe you go to your grandparents' house and there's always a old man in the house, or you go to your friend's house and there's, a little girl, or you go to a haunted hotel and there's a woman, or do you know what I mean? Like going to a place and seeing those entities, those beings, and them coming with you, them coming home with you. I was taught from the time I was little, and it's so funny. Every single one of you guys, when you're outside, I want you to think about this, okay? When you're outside and you're in the dirt, you're in the mud, you're in the snow, you're in the whatever, usually you wipe your feet off on a mat before you come in, right? You stomp your foot, you tap your foot on the side of the step before you come in if it's snow all over it, right? Like you knock your feet off. So I can't remember exactly how he used to say it, but my grandpa, whenever we would be tapping our feet off when we were kids, he would say this little thing that was basically like leaving all the other people outside. Does that make sense? Like leaving all of the things, all of the beings outside. So I was kind of taught that when you walk in the door, you tap your feet off, so things aren't following you. And I was thinking about that a lot because this summer, y'all know I went up to Hell House and filmed a TV show. And when I got there, when I go to a place that I know is haunted, I will tap my feet off before I walk in. And it's so I'm leaving any good energies, and I want you to think about this before I'm going to say it. I want you to think about it. It's so I can leave any good energies outside of that house. Or that building or that hotel or whatever. I don't want to take some good energy into a nasty place and leave it there. It get lost or stuck in there. I don't want to do that. That would be like taking little puppies with you everywhere you go and just randomly leaving one in a place where you know it's dangerous for that puppy to be. Does that make sense? So I had some weird things happen when I left Hell House. And here's what's funny. It wasn't out of the realm of normal shit for me, because it's been something that's happened all my life. So the night that I was there filming the TV show, we had to sleep in the house. And I slept in the most haunted room in the house. And there was a lot of activity in my room all night long. The equipment was going off all night long. I had my foot grabbed. I mean, like a solid, someone grabbed my whole foot. Things like that. There were also some other things that we did, experienced, heard, saw, etc. in the house. The house is super active. I've been in a lot of places like that before. My nose is itchy. Somebody's talking about me. And it doesn't bother me. Like, it doesn't bother me. It's not new. Are there times I get freaked out? Yeah. Are there times I'm like, I am not going in that room? Yeah. Hell, it happens in my own shop. But when I left, and I got dropped off at the airport, everything was great in the Philadelphia airport. I talked to my son. He was in basic training at the time. I get on the plane, I make my, get my flight, and I land in Colombia. And I'm in the Colombia airport, and the very first thing I do is head to the bathroom because I have to pee. So I go to the bathroom. And when I first got in there were a whole bunch of other ladies in there. And then nobody was in there. Like, it was just me. Because they had like the side I was on, it was like a row of sinks, and then the bathrooms were behind, like the stalls were behind me, right? So I come out of the stall, there was a lady washing her hands, and she left. And it was literally just me. And these are the sensors, okay? I've noticed, and I want y'all to notice this too, I've noticed that the higher your vibration is, the less likely those sensors are to be able to fucking see you. I have a hard time getting those fucking sensors to come on. Like, it's bullshit. So, anyway. I wash my hands. And as I'm washing my hands, 2 sinks down, the water comes on. And then the water next to it. And then the water next, like, boop, 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 boop. Like 4 sinks. Boop, 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 boop. I shit you not. And my reaction was... it just like this. I looked over and I said, you cannot come home with me. I dried my hands. I didn't look back at the sinks, and I left. I ended up having a layover there. My layover got pushed back. My flight got pushed back and pushed back because there was a lot of really bad weather. Well, I got home finally. And by the time I got home, it was really weird. And some of it was the weather, because the weather affects my brain really interesting, and sometimes I get really angry, like irrationally angry out of nowhere. And but when I got home and I got the plane, I was super fucking angry. Like, it was weird. So I get home, Sass and Leanne are there. And the next day, Sass and Leanne left and went home because they were, staying at the shop while I was gone and so on. They went home and it was just me in my house, in my apartment. And the place, the upstairs, it's haunted as fuck. It just is. It's haunted as fuck. Ugh. And so, I really thought I was fixing to get a ticket. Did you see the lights? I was going a little fast. Well, actually, the speed limit is 65 and I was going 68. I thought my car says 55, but the speed limit sign right there says 65. So I was like, oh, sure, I'm going to work. But he just flashed his lights at me. Anyway. So, I'm by myself, right? And I got this really uncomfortable feeling. Not the normal feeling for the loft up there, okay? Not the normal feeling. And I had a story idea, so I jotted the story down. And the feeling kind of went away, and I thought, well, I'm just freaking my own stuff out, right? And then I'm sitting there, and as I'm jotting this story down, I have both my dogs, little tiny dogs, and the cat on my bed, right? It's quiet. It's quiet up there. All of a sudden, all three in unison, their head pops up and they look at the door. Bear even starts growling. The dogs will notice the entities up there, but they've never growled. They've never growled at the entities up there. And I didn't like it. Like, it was bad enough. I slept with the lights on in my loft for like almost a week. I usually sleep with like a hall light on anyway because, man, sometimes like if it's a new moon, like it's dark 30 up there. You can't see shit. So I always have like one light on somewhere. But I mean, I slept with like most of the lights on. And then it died down. And I was like, okay, maybe, the beings that are in the shop already, maybe they weren't super happy with me for leaving, going to that place, whatever, right? But we went to Colorado for the gem show. And it's so funny that I kept getting asked questions either from you guys on live streams, somebody that I just had met, or Sass and I were talking about it, or the Wranglers, whatever. It was so weird. Like, people kept mentioning getting like attachments or whatever, right? And what do you do with them? So and so told me I had an attachment, etc. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, okay? So we stayed at the Stanley. Had a little experience with the bathroom door, but nothing really. Had amazing food. We stayed at the Hotel Boulderado. Didn't really have any experiences there either. Beautiful hotel. I love Boulder. And then, we stayed at another hotel in between those two that was just like a regular, little Marriott suites or whatever, The only thing that happened there was the air conditioning was too loud. But when we got to the Airbnb, things started happening. And the more crystals we brought into the house from the gem show, the more things started happening. To the point that toward the end of the week, shit was moving. Shit was like, things on the wall were swinging. Like, it was weird, right? Lights were swinging. I mean, not things on the wall. Lights were swinging. So, Sass and I get home from the gem show. And yesterday, and I pulled the video from the cameras because I was in the front, I call it the front room, where the majority of like the goodies are, right? And all of a sudden I hear her holler at me. And she was like, hey, come here for a minute. I'm not sure what just happened. I'm like, okay. So I walk in there. And she's like, I came back in here and I think I startled something. She said it felt like, you know when you walk up on a kid that's doing something they're not supposed to? And the kid gets startled and like, oh. Like that's what she's like, but it sounded like something being dragged across the floor. It is going to storm like a motherfucker tonight. There is no rain on the radar, but I'm looking at all the clouds popping up. It's going to storm like a motherfucker. I hope. It's hot as fuck here, so I hope. So I go to walk into the kitchen, and as soon as I crossed the threshold from the shop to the kitchen, I stopped. All of the hair on my arm was standing up. And I was like, I hollered at Seth. I was like, hey, come here. And she walked in the kitchen and she had this look. She just immediately had this look on her face. And I was like, how do you feel in here? She was like, nope. And she turned around and walked out. It was kind of funny. So anyway, I open up one of the spirit boxes on my phone. And I start asking some questions and so on and so forth. Well, I have a couple of the questions that aren't really, you can't really hear them super well on camera because I was in the kitchen. But I realized that I needed to be where the camera could hear and pick it up. And so I go back out into the shop and I start asking some questions and so on. And it gets obvious really quickly that it's whatever this is toying with me. And I went back and listened to it. And there were things in the wording that we didn't hear with our ears, okay? But it said at one point, because I asked if it followed me home from somewhere, and it said yes. And I said, why? And it said, to help you. And then I said, what do you want? What do I need your help with? And then it said something like to help me or something. So I'm like, okay. I don't trust any entity that says that it's here to help me, especially after I ask that entity if it's human and it says no. A lot of people will not talk to an entity that is not human. I will to an extent. A very small extent, but to an extent. And here's why. Because in the past, I have worked with and been around jinn. I have worked with, and when I say worked with, I don't mean like you work with a deity. I mean as in like a petition for shamanic purposes, you need something. When you go to the lower realms in the shamanic practice, you deal with things that are not nice. So I will deal with them. I will speak to them for a minute. But once it crosses a certain point, I cut off communication. So it told me that it wasn't human. It told me that, you know, it was trying to help me and all this stuff. No, you're not. No, you're not. So after that session, and after I had pulled the video and Sass and I had listened to it, I was thinking back about what happened when Sass and I were in Tombstone and the drive after Tombstone, and started thinking about a whole bunch of different things. And then on my live last night, I think somebody said something about an attachment. So let's kind of talk about good attachments, because there are good attachments. Every single one of you guys has good and bad attachments. The good attachments are things like Grandma Josephine that's passed away but is still around you all the time. A good attachment is someone that you truly cared about that is no longer here, that comes to visit you all the time. Okay? Grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, brother, sister, best friend, whatever. And now have something poking me in the eye. It's fun. That's a good attachment. Technically, that's an attachment. That is a spirit that has attached itself to you. There are bad attachments. This could be, maybe you had a very abusive ex who passed away and they've attached themselves to you and they're fucking with you now that they're gone. That's an example of a bad attachment. Maybe in life your dad or mom was not a nice person and they were mean to you and they've passed away and they're still around. Do you see what I'm saying? That's a bad attachment. It's a negative attachment. Everyone has them. Everyone also has spirit guides, which are technically attachments. Not all spirit guides have your highest interest in mind. I've seen it. I've seen it in clients for over a decade now. Not every single one, but every now and then I'm like, honey, you need to tell this spirit guide to shut the fuck up. Those are good and bad attachments. Now, there comes a line when a negative attachment becomes an issue. Your abusive ex is eventually going to leave you the fuck alone. They're going to get it out of their system, or they're going to get pulled to do something else because they're not supposed to be fucking with you after they've passed away. Does that make sense? There are ways of cutting off communication with a spirit guide that's not in your best interest. But getting an attachment that is not human, was never human, and will never be human, that's a little harder. So I hear people all the time say, oh, well, a reader on TikTok or this person or that person. Why people gotta pass people when somebody's coming? I don't understand. Y'all gonna cause a wreck. This is how you kill families, you dumb shit. You know when an attachment is really negative. You don't really need someone to diagnose that. Sometimes you do, because they can be really subtle, but this is when violent things happen around you all the time. They happen to you. They happen to people you love. Like anything you touch burns to the ground. You know when you have something negative. Now, I will say this. Over the last decade or so, those things have gotten a lot sneakier. They have gotten a lot sneakier. But if somebody tells you that you have a negative attachment and there's nothing really horrendously horrible, bad, violent going on in your life, I would kind of call shenanigans. I would get a second, third, fourth opinion. And when I say second, third, fourth, I mean second, third, fourth. Don't go to somebody and say, hey, I have an attachment. Can you read for me? Instead, say, I just have a couple questions. I just need confirmation on something. And don't give them any more information than that. And let them read for you. Okay? You'll know when you have an attachment. A big, bad, negative attachment that needs cleared. You will, I promise. And the thing is, it takes a while to get rid of one of those attachments. It's not something that someone can burn a fucking egg for you on TikTok for. It's not something that someone can burn a bay leaf in a candle for. It's not something that someone else can do for you completely, to be honest. You do have to do some work as well. You really do. It can take weeks, months, or even a couple of years or more to get an attachment like that to let go, unless you have someone very well trained in getting that attachment to let go. But I find it funny that these things keep coming up lately. Apparently, I'm going to say repeatedly. It's also interesting how the universe puts things where they're supposed to be in your path. I'm kind of just laughing at some shit. Like, when you get to a certain point in your journey, the universe becomes obvious. Whereas before, it wasn't. This is Bobo, by the way. He is my favorite toy that I have bought on a journey so far. I don't know why. Probably because he headbangs really well. But the universe becomes obvious. Before you really are seeing things for what they are, before you start raising your vibration, before you start doing anything, you're kind of oblivious to the way things work. People will call it fate, they'll call it destiny, they'll call it all of these different things, right? It's a miracle, God intervened, things like that. But we don't pay attention to all of the workings that the universe, God, whoever you want to say it is, has put into motion until the big finale of the fireworks happens. We don't see all the little prep work leading up to that big finale. The more you start to raise your vibration and the more you start to pay attention to everything around you on a continual basis, the universe becomes obvious. I didn't really tell anybody. Like, a couple people really close to me knew I was looking at houses to buy a house. And I found the coolest fucking house. Loved this fucking house. And I had been, since my divorce, I've been working on my credit religiously because I got stuck with a lot of things. Because when you're a disabled veteran, they can't garnish you, but they can garnish your spouse. And I wasn't about to get garnished, so I had to make payment arrangements and pay some shit off. So I've worked meticulously to build my credit. If you've ever been through a divorce, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you go through a divorce, it doesn't matter how good your credit was. Doesn't matter. It's fixing to get right in the fucking shitter. In fact, not only is it going to get in the shitter, it's going to get below the shitter and probably in the shitter's shitter. So, about a year into my divorce, thanks COVID, my credit was like 523. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like, anytime I would look at car insurance or anything like that, and they'd be like, we go off your credit to offer you rates. I'd be like, oh, couldn't get a car loan that wasn't like 900% interest. You know what I'm talking about? I busted my ass, man. I busted my ass. I got the secured credit cards to build my credit back up. Would use them, pay them off, except for like 30% of them. Busted my ass. So I went to look at houses, and I had checked my credit before I started looking at houses, right? I even had a lender I was working with. Well, I didn't have the lender. This is where the universe becomes obvious. The lender I was working with didn't pull my credit. Even though they knew I was actively looking at houses, they just forgot. Which, why would a lender forget? But they did. It's okay. Because when you're working with a lender and they pull your credit, then they usually can take that credit score and use that for 120 days. I mean, if your credit gets higher, then they can use that, they can rerun it or whatever. But anyway, they can use that for 30 days. 120 days, excuse me. So they didn't. So I find this perfect house. I even have like my dad come out and look at some stuff on it. I got everything together, got an offer ready. I even wrote a personal letter because the house only had ever had like 2 owners. The current owner had owned it since the 70s. Like I wrote a personal letter. Like I was ready to buy this house, right? So I get everything ready and I call the lender and I'm like, hey, I found a house. This is what I'm going to offer. I need to get, my letter, blah, blah, blah. I've got my earnest money. Here's what I've got for a down payment. Lender's like, great, cool. Let me get you that. So about an hour later, they call me and they're like, I can't help you. When I checked my credit, before I started looking at houses, my credit was like 718. So goddamn proud of that. And then when I checked my credit, I was happy, right? No. The lender goes to check my credit. It is 563. I was like, are you sure you have the right person? That's like almost 200 points difference. And they're like, yeah, until it's at least 580, we can't do anything. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is going on right now? So I have all the credit monitoring stuff. So I get on there because I had literally just looked at it the week before. So y'all remember that thing back in like June when I had that bank account that they closed it, wouldn't tell me why? So I had 2 credit card payments that automatically paid out of that. And I missed those 2 payments. So they were 45 days instead of the 30 days, right? So those 2 things tanked my credit. I have perfect payment history since, 2019 when I opened these credit cards and got my car loan, like things like that. Perfect fucking payment history. My debt to income ratio is great. Like I have been meticulously working on this. I kid you guys not that I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry. And even the lender, I asked the lender, I'm like, I don't understand this. Can you help me? God damn, it says 102 outside. My car says 100. This is fucking stupid. Fucking summer in Oklahoma. It's fucking stupid. It's almost fall. I'm ready for it to be fall. The lender even looks at everything and he's like, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. Because I even asked him, I was like, can you look and see if there is something else on my credit that I'm missing? Some other reason why my credit is suddenly 200 points lower. Like he goes through everything in my report. He was like, I can't explain it to you. He's like, I can't explain it to you. So I'm like, all right, I'm not supposed to buy this house. I get it, universe. I fucking get it. You're a dick. And I get it. Because I'm laughing at this point. I'm like, so this bank account was closed for no reason. Or they didn't give me a reason. I missed 2 payments. I was 15 days late on both of them. And because of that, it tanked my credit. Like in no universe, even the lender was like, in no universe is this a thing. Dude, it's gonna storm so bad. I'm like looking at this dark shit moving in. So anyway, I was super devastated and upset. It is what it is. And I got over it. Had my little pity party. So I was like, I don't believe in coincidences, and I see you, universe. I see what you're doing. I'm not supposed to move into that house. I'm not supposed to move to that town. I fucking get it. Guess what my credit is today? Because everything updated over the last 3 days. Because this was just last month. Guess what my credit is today? Almost 700. It went up 95 something points yesterday. And it had already gone up like 18 points a few days ago. 95 points in one day. The universe becomes obvious. There's a whole bunch of other things that have happened. The universe becomes obvious to you when you start really paying attention, and when you raise your vibration to the point that you're on a different playing field. I don't know how many of y'all watch Star Trek, but when they would play chess and it would have the multiple level chessboards, that's what I'm talking about, like multiple different playing fields. The universe becomes so fucking obvious. It is what it is. Cracks me up. But y'all will start to see those kind of things like that happen. And when devastating things happen, was I upset that I didn't get to buy this house that I loved? Yeah. Was I upset that I worked so hard to have one little thing fuck me over when I needed it the most? Of course I was. Don't think I wasn't. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, you are so fucking obvious with yourself right now, universe. Like you're fucking gaslighting me and shit. It becomes obvious. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't. There isn't coincidences. Hardened detectives, hardened prosecutors, hardened judges, hardened attorneys will tell you there are no coincidences. Whether they're spiritual or not. Dudes, that wall cloud right there is fucking crazy. The trip to Colorado was very interesting in a few ways. The entities kept coming up, the attachment thing, coincidences, the universe being obvious. But something else interesting was happening as well. I knew that it was going to be a huge change for me. I knew that it was going to be some shift in energy that I needed really badly. I just didn't know how much of a shift it was going to be. And I am not sorry. At all. And I don't even know how to explain it. I don't have words yet. But I knew I needed to do a road rambling today. I've been feeling the need to do one for a while, but my kid doesn't ever want to be on, and I understand that. And then Sass and I, man, like on the way up there, we were talking about all kinds of shit and stuff and things. And she has to do worky work, jobby job stuff. And on the way back, we ran into some really nasty storms and no internet and so on. By the way, Kansas, I have a bone to pick with y'all. What the fuck is that smell? What the fuck is that smell, Kansas? You don't smell it when you are coming from like I-35 up to Wichita. You don't smell it when you're coming from like Kansas City over into Kansas. And I can't speak from going north, you know, from Nebraska down. But from Colorado into Kansas, what the fuck is that smell? There are no words for how bad this smell is. You can be, and here's what's funny. You can be out in the middle of nowhere and not smell it. You can be by all of these fucking cattle farms and not smell it. Well, when you get right up on the cattle farm, you got to smell the cattle farm. But you get into these towns, and what is that smell? What is that fucking smell? The other bone I have to pick with you, Kansas, is this. Why y'all have no internet? Why y'all have no Wi-Fi? Why y'all have no signal? There are towers everywhere. There are towers every fucking where. We went in one way, we came out another. Both ways have shit signal. And you know what? The way we went into Colorado, there were semis everywhere. I know they have to have signal to know where they're going for their navigation, all that shit. On the way back, there weren't as many semis, but there were a ton of communities, little tiny communities. There are towers everywhere. Why y'all have no internet? Why do y'all have no Wi-Fi? Explain. Kansas, I've driven through Kansas since I was a kid, going from Oklahoma to Colorado and vice versa. So my grandparents lived here. We came down several times a year. We had a cabin in Missouri. We drove straight through Kansas. I swear to fuck, tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like if there is purgatory, it's Kansas. It's Kansas. I love you, Kansas. But y'all know I'm true. Y'all know I'm right. It is the same field of corn, the same 3 hills, and the same 15 trees, scattered here and there, forever. Kansas is purgatory. I love Wichita. I love Kansas City. But Kansas itself, driving through Kansas itself, is fucking purgatory. You think you're about out of it. I swear to God, y'all change the signs up there just to fuck with people. Like it'll say, oh, you know, this town is 40 miles. So you go 20 miles and there's another sign, this town is 20 miles. Cool. You go another little bit, this town is 30 miles. Excuse, what? Y'all fuck with people in Kansas. Y'all fuck with people. It's fucking purgatory. That's why you can't figure out where the smell is. That's it right there. That's why you can't figure out where the smell is. The fuck? What's wrong with you in Kansas? What's wrong with y'all? It's fucked up, man. Man, I'm glad I'm coming to pick my kid up, because I would be really freaked out if I saw these clouds knowing that my kid was trying to ride a big bus from Stillwater to Tulsa. I don't like it. Anyway. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this little road rambling.